Hey everyone, give me 1 second. Oh, there we are, okay. Great, hi. I'm Michael Baccasino, Senior Director of Content Partnerships at The Soul Publishing. Where's my clicker? Oh, here it is. Okay. We are a digital-first studio that started life back in 2015 with a single page on Facebook for a channel called Brightside, which produced video factoids about the natural world and science. About a year after that, we started publishing a DIY channel called 5 Minute Crafts. And once we started publishing these videos on YouTube, they both quickly became top 10 channels on both platforms, on Facebook and on YouTube. And we started to realize that we were pretty good at creating channels that were optimized for social. This also includes teen comedy channel 123 Go, which features pranks and hacks for kids, and then also a kid-focused channel called Slick Slime Sand, which features craft projects for children and families. This year, our portfolio of channels hit 1.5 billion followers across all of social. And as of July of this year, we hit 100 billion views just since the start of the year. We're on trend to get to 200 billion before 2023. That means we're the #1 digital publisher in the world in terms of online video views, in terms of YouTube and Facebook traffic. That means we're bigger than Disney, bigger than Moonbug, bigger than Warner Media Discovery. And we've done that with a purely organic posting strategy. We do not pay to amplify our videos. Everything we get is organically from our audience. Part of that success is our structure. We are a global team of 2,700 people with about 3/4 of the team fully remote. Everyone else in our studio space is in Europe. And a video produced by The Soul might be written by someone in Los Angeles, voiced over by someone in New York, edited by someone in Mexico City, produced in Budapest, and then maybe published by someone in India. We are a truly global company, and that gives our videos, I think, a very truly global perspective. And I think that scale is the key to our business because the bulk of our revenue is generated through programmatic advertising against our content. By necessity, we need to be on every platform that has monetization or that we think will have monetization. And in order to accomplish that, we built out a production and distribution workflow that has enabled our brands to become Omni-Media properties. Now, Omni-Media as a term typically refers to companies that own newspapers and radio stations, but for our purposes, we're mostly focused on figuring out social distribution or digital distribution across social platforms and connected TV devices. And which basically means, as a publisher, we are publishing everything, everywhere, all the time. And today, I'd like to share a little bit about what we've learned, how we managed to do that, and also share some publishing hacks for your teams to take back to after the session, of things we learned along the way, told through the story of a piece of content from our legacy brand, 5 Minute Crafts. So let's get started. Publishing life hack #1, rethink your audio. And what I mean by that is don't make videos that don't have any sound. Sound can be a very powerful tool on socials, especially on TikTok and Snapchat, where you can use it as a growth hack. What I mean is find ways to tell stories that are nonverbal. This influencer here on TikTok, Kabi LeMay, does a great job of doing that. He doesn't need to say a word. He can tell you everything you need to know with a withering stare in one of his short-form videos. But when you're not using sound, that makes the structure of your video vitally important, especially the first 1 to 3 seconds, where you need to hook the viewer with some kind of tantalizing image from what they're about to learn. A good example of this is a video we produced in March of 2019, where we made a bar of soap shaped like a human hand using latex as a mold. And it did pretty well. It did 12 million views, which is pretty substantial even for us. And we started to see conversations happening about the craft online from creators like Jenna Marbles and the Try Guys. We realized we were onto something that was buzzy and getting people's attention. So we did what any enterprising media company would do. We remade it. Oh, there we go, Mr. Burns GIF. So life hack #2 for publishers, remake your videos, often. And I don't mean just remake the same video over and over again. Tweak the formula. Try to find the reason why the first one was so successful in the first place. For this remake, we swapped from a hand to a foot, also changed up the mechanism for actually creating the mold. It's a little more complicated, but the end result is something really unusual but delightful, this icy blue bar of soap shaped like a human foot. And we published it in a number of places with different thumbnails just to see what would resonate. Can anyone guess where it did the best, potentially? No? It is now the #1 YouTube short of all time with 558 million views. So what do you think we did again? We tried to remake it again. This time the setup is a lot more simple. It's with more household products, but the end result is the same. This blue-shaped bar of soap, like a foot. And we published it on a bunch of different platforms. And the interesting thing that we learned this time was that the one that did the best wasn't the one that even featured the clip of our infamous video in the first place. It was this video about creating, using sand as molds for Barbie dolls, which also included the foot soap video as the anchor. But what we really learned was that what people were most excited about was this idea of recreating simple shapes from the comfort of their homes. Oops, sorry, I lost my place. One sec. Okay. So this was also something that appealed to users globally. I think, oops, wrong way. Which brings me to my next life hack. Life hack number 3. Reorganize your localization. We saw the same trend across all the different languages that we published to. And now I'm going to say something, oops, let me go back. So I'm going to say something that might be slightly controversial, but when it comes to publishing across languages, across territories, the internet is a place of surprising little diversity, with the top 10 languages making up 77% of global internet users, and English making up about 26% of global internet users. There's this ongoing myth that you need to publish by platform, by region, with local content teams, and we found that that's not entirely true. We publish our content in a multilingual publishing pipeline. One piece of content translated in multiple languages, and if you're fulfilling a specific need like 5-Minute Crafts is, good content is universal. Many platform teams we work with continue to be organized by region, so this can be a challenging approach at times, but if you stick with it, then it can become almost like this regional A/B test. Take, for example, what we did with the foot soap video. We published it across our channel, our translated channels in Spanish, French, and Japanese. Obviously changing the metadata, the title, the description, even editing the video slightly differently depending on the region. But the end result was the same. We learned that users in Japan really loved videos about soap, molds, and human appendages, which can then be used to inform our ongoing content strategy. Life hack number 4, revise your channel strategy. While Facebook and YouTube built these empires by serving up people what they knew they already liked, TikTok created a seismic shift by serving up content that people might like. And that sort of resulted in these very niche communities that have sort of started to dominate the conversations in social. Take, for example, Book Talk, a community of people on social that love to talk about books and reviews. There's also Bird Talk, where people make memes about birds. My personal favorite is Coastal Grandmother, which is a style trend that popped up where young women are starting to dress like the characters from Nancy Meyer movies in the early 2000s. Very specific stuff. But it's not a very different trend that we've seen in the past. The things you like and the communities you follow are always used online to sort of badge yourself with an identity. It was the same when it was back with Facebook, trying to post an article you saw to your friends before anyone else saw it. The same with the personality quizzes that came around about 10 years or so ago. It's not enough for publishers anymore to just create buckets of verticals around beauty or home decor. You need to dig a little bit deeper to really engage with these types of communities. Back in March of 2020, we started to see this trend on 5-Minute Crafts where people really responding to upcycling content. So we spun off a new vertical called 5-Minute Recycle. It did really well, it exploded, and about a year later we started to see another trend where users were really engaging with gardening content. So we spun off another spin-off of a spin-off called 5-Minute Green. Gradually building the footprint of 5-Minute Crafts, channel by channel, brand by brand, and eventually language by language. Using these new channels to evolve the core competencies of our brand, rather than treating 5-Minute Crafts as the end-all be-all destination for our user. Life hack number 5, revisit your best practices. Take, for instance, hashtags. They're great for organizing and indexing your content, but when you think about the ways that users actually discover new video on social, they're not really clicking on hashtags. Our community managers ran a test where they published videos on TikTok for a while without any hashtags, and what they found was that Nothing happened. We got the exact same traffic as we would have had we been really, organized about creating the different hashtags. But what we learned was that the TikTok algorithm was smart enough that it didn't need us to organize the videos on its behalf. It could do it by itself. Another trend we've been exploring recently is the push for creator-driven content. With advances in camera technology, there's a lot more competition. It's a lot harder to break through, even for publishers. And this example shows some videos from Fashion Talk about hat styling. One from a publisher, one from a creator named Vivacious Honey. You can see the results for yourself. So we started a creator-driven channel with one of our producers from 5 Minute Crafts, this guy named Archie. And he tests popular viral hacks to see if they really work. He grew pretty quickly on TikTok, as we assumed he would, 2.8 million followers. But when you put his soap mold video besides the soap mold video from our traditional channels, it still kind of wins the day. And this isn't the end-all be-all. Obviously, this is one example of many, but I think it shows that there's room for both types of content in this ecosystem, despite the narrative that we have right now, where creators are sort of driving all the conversations. And that's just the narrative within our own industry. Last year, we went to MIPCOM thinking we had this fabulous story about our distribution and our audience, and we were hoping to find partners to continue distributing our content. And we just got blank stares. And a lot of the teams at these traditional distribution companies didn't think that our short-form content made a lot of sense for their platforms. And these labels that we use, short-form, long-form, creator-driven, publisher-driven, they're kind of arbitrary terms that the end user doesn't really ever care about. Because when we went back and added an opening credit sequence to our videos, to 20-minute long compilations of our short-form video, followed by an end credit animation, they started to view us as a television show worth putting on their platforms. Once we got onto Roku, 123Go and 5 Minute Crafts started trending on the homepage because they were doing that well on this traditional OTT platform. So my point with all this is to be an Omni-Media brand in 2022, the most important thing you can do is to not let anyone else tell you where you belong. Because at the end of the day, it's up to your audience. And for every rule that's baked into the fabric of our industry, there's a soul publishing waiting in the wings to turn those rules on their head. So to recap, rethink your audio, to make and remake better videos, to help you reach more people in more languages, with a channel strategy that digs deeper and relies less on outdated best practices, to prepare you and your teams for the next platform or long-form opportunity on the horizon, and whatever other challenges might be just around the bend. Thank you.
Michael, thank you so much. Very cool stuff. Stay right there. We have questions for Michael. As you move on to the OTT platforms, what is your monetization strategy changing at all? And do you have any plans generally to start then taking some of these formats, move them back into digital video, and monetize them differently?
I mean, the monetization strategy is going to be the same, where the difference is instead of just relying on programmatic, we're also relying on other partners to sell in our inventory or sell their ads against our inventory. So it's a lot of education around who we are, what we do, why we are providing value. And in terms of figuring out new formats, we're definitely excited about evolving 5 Minute Crafts, for example, into like a proper premium 20-minute long piece of content. What that looks like when there's no host to anchor it is kind of something we're still figuring out. But yeah, it's starting a lot of conversations internally about where we go next, because there is interest from these places we didn't think traditionally would be excited about what we're doing.
But why are you making that basic decision to stick with programmatic and not have your own internal larger sales force and direct?
We flirted with it, and we've done some great content. Like we did a partnership with Mattel about a year and a half ago. That was some of the best branded content that I've seen. And I think it's a conversation that we're still having that we eventually want to figure out. But right now, I think it's cleaner for our editorial teams to focus on the scale and getting the traffic from programmatic than to interrupt the workflow with a branded opportunity.
That would seem then that would be the natural path to go, would be branded content as opposed to simply just pre-roll standard advertising. For this sort of format, it seems to play well in that space.
Yeah, and I came from BuzzFeed before I was at The Soul, and so I definitely am excited about those opportunities down the line.
How are you coming up with new ideas? What's the feedback loop from users that are helping to generate? Are you interested basically in expanding the franchise of individual titles?
Yeah,
in
sometimes.
What directions?
Well, I think the thing that drives us most is looking for new platforms to break into. Like last year, we created a virtual influencer called Polar, who's this 3D animated character, And it's sort of beyond the scope of what we would traditionally normally do. But seeing the opportunity in the metaverse, we built an animation team just to see if we could crack the same code that we did with social content. And so far, she's been doing virtual concerts in the metaverse and Horizons and Avicon Life. She's been doing interviews with Forbes in real time. So we're constantly sort of seeking out where the opportunities are and then building our workflows and our distribution around those opportunities. And the creative kind of comes with that as well.
Are there opportunities, though, in audiences? Are you thinking about, what do you consider your base and core audience for most of your content? And are you thinking in terms of what audiences you want to start tapping into that may give you higher yield?
We definitely skew female for a lot of our brands, not all of them, but for the most part. There's a lot of co-viewing happening with our videos, parents and kids. Someone was telling me earlier that their 11-year-old son loves watching 5-minute craft videos. And that's a co-viewing experience where you talk about things you want to try on a rainy day at home. Those are the kinds of audiences we think we're plugged into pretty well. In terms of evolving the next group, I think there's opportunities with, I saw this at BuzzFeed, as the team making the videos gets older, starts having families and kids, you start to see more of that content kind of come organically. That's where I would spitball the next thing comes from.
Okay, core to your strategy is distribution and looking for new paths, new platforms. Are there 2 or 3 new emerging platforms that you're looking at or you're excited about that maybe most of the people in the room don't know about yet?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think TikTok is still kind of a blank slate. We've been there for 2 years now. We have 80 million followers across 80 channels. We're not monetizing them yet. We're building them purely just for the goal of one day having them turn on the programmatic. But I think it's still an opportunity to grab real estate on TikTok. Where if you look at YouTube, which might be more saturated, there's still an opportunity to break through on that specific platform. And I think if you look at Instagram and Snapchat, as they're sort of tweaking their tools and sort of figuring out what works best for them, there's also a great capacity for growth there as well. We grew from 1 to 60 channels on Snapchat almost over the course of a year. And we've seen it become a huge revenue generator for us. So there's still room everywhere.
Michael Vocatino, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was great. Really interesting.